The World Bank says Nigeria might have one of the highest inflation rates globally in 2022, with increasing prices diminishing the welfare of Nigerian households. And this is made worse by insecurity, floods, fuel scarcity, electricity shortage, as well as foreign exchange shortages, and even the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And these inflationary pressures remain a big concern for the economy and citizens, as the cost of food items is gradually going beyond the reach of the average Nigerian, with prices skyrocketing month on month. Joining us in the studio is the President, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, Emmanuel. Onuorah, welcome to TVC Breakfast.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, let me ask you the question.
Before that, let me also introduce via Zoom agricultural information broker, African farmer Mogaji. Welcome to TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.
We'll
Good morning.
start off with right. It's good to have you join us. We'll start off with Mr. Onuorah in the studio.
If we cannot have bread, why can't we have cake?
Of course, bread is a staple. It's an everyday thing. Cake is just something you just do and go. Bread is something that's supposed to be on the table every morning for every home. Good morning, viewers, and good morning, Nigerians.
Right.
So we cannot eat cake. If we cannot eat bread, I will eat cake. That's what happened in the French Revolution, when the wife of Louis the Marie Antoinette was saying that when they were protesting on the streets and saying that there was no bread, then she said, if they cannot eat bread, why don't you give them cake?
Does that serve in present-day Nigeria?
It doesn't. What goes into cake is much more than what goes into bread making, you understand? Bread is it. Biblically.
Bread has become like what cake used to be. It's very expensive now.
And it's going to get more expensive. The horizon is not looking good at all. The horizon is not looking good. It's not looking good. It's a very, we are in a precarious situation. As bread makers, jobs are lost. We are losing jobs by the day. For instance, I am doing about 40 as an installed capacity of 100%. I'm doing 30% now. You understand? And cost does not match expenditure. For us, the Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, or Premium Bread Makers in Nigeria, and bakers generally, we are facing a very, very torrid time. We are indeed bleeding. Businesses are closing in droves. People are losing jobs. And the consequences on exacerbation of security in country, it's a very torrid time for us. Flour has increased in the last 1 month. I'm not just telling you, between 18th of May till the date, flour has increased by about 2,000 naira, and for every 1,000 increase in flour, you have about 15 naira shelved off your margins, because flour is our major ingredient, and sugar. It constitutes about 65 to 70% of our inputs, followed by sugar. Then the other things are just infinitesimal here and there. So it's tough being a baker now. It's tough. Let me just digress. I have 150 staffs that were working for me in my bakery. Today, I have reduced them by 70%. I have only 30% working for me. Not because I don't want to. Some of them I placed on stood off. Some of them I paid out. I paid off outrightly, because I can no longer pay them. Today is on the 6th. Have I paid my staffs? No, because my cost does not match my expenditure. I buy maybe a trailer of flour to produce bread. By the time I finish producing, I can only be able to get money for 450. What kind of business survives on that? And for me, I'm a medium size. There are people that are bigger than me that are facing this whole crisis in the industry. And bread is a staple. Bread is something that is a grab and go for every Nigerian, whether rich, averagely placed, or whatever. So if it gets out of the table of Nigerians, then there's going to be a lot of challenges for us.
We'll put you on hold, Mr. Onuorah. Let's head over now to speak with African farmer Mogaji. So we've heard from bread makers. It's really tales and tales of woe. What's it like for you working in the agricultural sector?
Also, and like it affects the whole economy. The cost is really going high. Fertilizers sell for like 30,000 per bag. Last year it was 15, depending on the type of fertilizers you're looking at. But last year it was 15. This year it's 30. The liquid herbicides that was 1,000 to 1,005 is in the 4,000 range. So prices are really going up. But guess what? This also is avoidable because since last year on this program, even early this year, like 3 times, I came to say, you know, we need to work together. We need to be proactive. Government, private sector, you know, let's all take the blame. We're all not proactive. The bread makers, you know, during Dr. Adeshina's tenure as the Minister of Agriculture, even predating that under President Olusegun Obasanjo, you know, the cassava flour conversation started, which they included, I think, 20% for bread. Yes, it may not be premium bread, but if we've been embracing local, integrating it into what we do, when we find ourselves in these economic challenges that's caused by nobody, you know, Russia-Ukraine war, we've depended too much on the external. So if gradually we've been integrating our cassava flour, which we're the largest producer of cassava in the whole world, then, you know, the situation now would have been reduced. Probably the technology probably to get the cassava flour to 50% will be there. So yes, it's bad, but we should focus on not what we have lost, but what we still have with us. So what we still have is that going forward, the bread makers need to create employment. So we need to work with farmers. Fortunately, we would be having quite a sizable amount of cassava this year because many people ran into cassava last year, thinking the price will go astronomically high like it did last year. However, so we'll be having the raw material, the cassava flour companies are available. So we need to work in and look inward and not stop looking inward going forward because we never can tell the next challenge or the next epidemic that would happen. So we need Nigerians who have businesses to look inward. When the chips are down, we are left with each other. The foreigners would block the food moving into other countries to protect themselves also. So right now we need to leverage this so that we can all be sustainable and feed Nigeria.
What is implying is that you guys are not creative enough.
Dimestro, I don't think we are not. We are creative enough. Let me tell you about this cassava thing. You know, as a country, it pains us so much as an industry that almost 100% of our inputs are all imported. It's not good for any country. There must be in-country capacity. We must be able to do some of these basic things in country. But let me tell you this, Dimestro, and cassava does not have gluten that helps the flour to kick. The Nigerian cassava, of course, contains a lot of cyanide. It's rancid. It's acidic. You know, African Farmer just said something. We've done extensive research on it. The federal government, the last administration was very strong on it. But we could not go beyond 10%. Don't mind it. African Farmer is saying 20%. No, we tried it. They tried it out in my bakery. It couldn't go beyond 10% of you bulk, maybe 90% of wheat flour, and then 10% of. If it goes beyond that, the bread collapses. The bread will give you a sour taste because it doesn't have gluten. So there is still a lot of work to be done by researchers in Nigeria. And as an industry, too, we are ready to collaborate with them, provided they provide the leeway for us to come in. We can bring in our own expertise in our own little ways. You understand? You know, so it's not as easy as he puts it. Nigerian cassava.
But you also believe it is possible. Nigerian cassava can actually be a healthier alternative, or cheaper alternative, or what do you suggest?
No, it can never be. Cassava is a different product on its own. It's not only cassava. There is the potato puree, the orange flesh potato, sweet potato. It's very, very good. But you understand?
As bread?
For bread, no, you can use it. You mix it with the flour because they don't have gluten. They don't have the properties that bind the bread together. If you use only it, it will just break and it becomes rancid. When it becomes rancid, what does it do? It tastes sour in the mouth. So a lot of research needs to go into this. And they've done a lot of research.
I was eating a piece of fish yesterday.
Okay.
And I don't know what kind of fish it was. And I was struggling with all the bones that... after we put the fish in the mouth, and then you have to start removing bones. And I was saying that, look, when I was in the US, I never saw, when I was eating fish, I never tasted any bone, any little bone. They have a way of taking it out of the fish. Yeah. And then you eat your fish in peace. But now we always have, we still need to learn how to take food to a stage where we have to enjoy it. But that is just aside.
Yeah.
How is it that we have real problem, we have banditry problem, we have problem of power, and so many other issues, bureaucratic issues, storage, transportation issues, and so on. Now, tell me how all of these have now become a perfect storm for food prices.
It has come to a head, really. It has come to a head. Energy, public energy, of course, you know, it's non-existent. You use it as standby. Instead of using your genset to be a standby, yes, you run your genset 24/7. The cost of diesel is humongous. It's going for $8.50. About on the 18th of May, it was about 700, 730 thereabout. Today, it's going for $8.50. And as bread makers, it's a major part of what we use to run to bake bread. You know, in other climes, the other day I was in a neighboring francophone country here. I went to do something in baking, and I discovered that they were using electric ovens. They here, when they are designing for Nigeria, they just thought it was that because we are not having light, they must use diesel to run to burn the burners that hits the oven. So you use about, let me give instances. Before this wahala set in, we were doing about maybe 5,000 liters of diesel a week in our bakery. But because of the pricing now, maybe where you were spending 2-3 million before, you are spending 10 million on diesel. How many businesses survives on that? On top of that, yesterday or 2 days ago, they just increased sugar. And this is something we refine here in Nigeria. We have companies that are doing it. There's backward integration. The government is encouraging them. Yes, I know they get the syrup somewhere from Brazil to help the sugar.
For the raw material.
Yeah, they get some of the raw materials from outside the country. But why is it that the price keeps on the upward trend? What is the problem? As we are here today talking, I need you people to begin to interrogate even these people that are manufacturing these things in Nigeria. The flour millers, the sugar refiners. Nigerians must begin to interrogate them. You know, is anybody not holding anybody accountable in this country? We know we run a free market economy, but come on, must we kill Nigerians because we are into business? How on earth will the price of flour and sugar maybe be going up every 2 weeks? Is this sustainable? It distorts everything about your business. You can't even plan. You can't do anything. Right. And as bakers, you know, it's very difficult to pass on the cost because the highest for premium bread makers, the biggest bread we have, we call it the jumbo, going for 1,000 naira.
Call it what?
The jumbo size, that big one. Yeah, it's going for 1,000 naira. I keep asking myself, there was a time we went for a meeting with the Federal Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment in Abuja, and I asked a rhetorical question. I asked the question, can Nigerians buy bread for 1,000 naira? This was sometime last year. And somebody sarcastically said, yes. I said, okay, you are not serious. Nigerians can buy. He said they should go and pass on your costs. Is it so easy to pass on costs as businesses, as government? When was the last time we did salary reviews for workers? Even you that are working here, how many times have they done it? People are using more than 100% of their salary today on feeding. Right.
All right. I'll get back to you in a moment because I was even about to ask about, you know, how the basic man now has to contend with 1,000 naira per loaf of bread.
It's crazy.
African farmer. Okay, so the agricultural sector has indeed, you know, been getting steady financial support by the federal government. But yes, amidst all these woes of fuel scarcity, power cuts, and, you know, every other, the basic evils now, we still haven't been able to boost local production.
Yes. So I think we should rephrase the statement, which is that the sector has been getting the funding. The sector has been reported to getting the funding. So it's a lot of reporting. Most of the funding is still not trickling down. I can tell you for a fact. Yes, the funding budgeted and the funding that has come to the sector has increased considerably. But when you look at the figures put out there, vis-a-vis what goes to the farms for production, vis-a-vis what comes out. You see, one thing is the funding getting to the right people. That has been a bottleneck for almost 30 years, But another thing is that, is it the right funding that gets to the farmers? So I say this, most of the interventions is meant to keep the farmer poor. However, people may not like that statement, but the truth is, none, when I say none, I mean none. None of these programs use premium premium seeds. Like the man in the studio there or online is saying premium bakers. It is only premium seeds and inputs that can make the farmer more productive. So where you are getting 2 tons, 3 tons, if you use premium seeds, premium fertilizers and others, then you begin to get 8 to 10 tons. Same effort, more yield. Or go and check it around. I've been involved in many of those programs. So they still give them the fertilizer that keeps the farmer poor. So they will budget like 300,000, 400,000 for 2.5 acres of maize. Meanwhile, premium quality seeds that will compete with US seeds, Mexico seed, that you will plant it and you will get 5 tons, 6 tons, is in the country, but they will not budget that for the farmers. They will not budget the premium quality fertilizers for the farmers. So the farmers still put in a lot of effort with garbage, low quality input, and the output is zero. So bottom line is that there's a lot of funding. There's practically, don't let me say none, but, on a scale of 100, you will say 30% monitoring and evaluation, and the end-to-end is not plugged in. And everything is either given to CBN to monitor or the Ministry of Agriculture. Meanwhile, it should be a collaboration, an integration of many ministries. So we're not doing what we need to do. We only talk about the funds. What happens after the funds are disbursed? And many of these interventions, many don't get to the farm. And I always like to balance the equation. Many of the farmers who also get it sell the inputs. I have witnessed some in many states. They sell across the road. So bottom line is that there's no monitoring and evaluation. And also you don't get the right people involved in the implementation of the project. Each ministry thinks we know, best. I can tell you the Ministry of Agriculture, CBN, and name it, they are all not working together. When Agric was working in Nigeria, there was collaboration. Collaboration is the missing word amongst all those ministries. When you had the river, I've been working on the river basin for about 27 years, and I've worked across the country. The river basin lands are there. The water is there. The manpower is there. But guess what? Ministry of Agriculture will not be involved when there's a funding by CBN, and they won't integrate the Ministry for Water Resources. So they come to Water Resources to implement the project. And guess what? The Minister of Water Resources just stands aloof and say, hey, we are doing our job. They've not involved us. Until you involve all of them, until it's we, Nigerians will suffer. The lands are there. We can produce. A chunk of what we still produce is wasting. Nigeria has no business with getting hungry. The food prices really is artificial. When you look at the resources that we have the money, we have the manpower, we have more private sector, more than ever in the last 8 to 10 years, investing in agriculture. But the infrastructure, the banditry is one. The things that we cannot control is one. But there are a lot of factors we can control. But we're not getting the right people involved in these projects. And that's why to date, this year, there's still a lot of wastage. January, February, tomatoes still wasted, yet we're still importing ketchup. What I'm saying is that this is not rocket science. It has been fixed in many countries. And guess what? It is Nigerians that we take out. We've done some projects in Burkina Faso. They take many of us out, put us in hotels. We put the brain work. They implement the project. Can we get the right people doing it?
And you talk about, pressures you bread makers are facing against the pressures the ordinary Nigerians are also facing. I mean, you were talking earlier on about a loaf of bread that should fill a household of about 4, now going for about 1,000 naira. And you rightly asked how many Nigerians can afford it. Of course, bread is a staple, but affordability is also a big concern. Right, yes, carry on with that point you were making earlier.
Yeah, affordability is a huge concern for everybody. As a bread maker, I don't eat all the bread I produce. I have siblings, I have relatives, I have friends everywhere across Nigeria. You know, if anybody tells you he's happy at what is happening in Nigeria, nobody's. As a Nigerian, I'm proud being a Nigerian, and we want to grow our country. We want our country to be a model in Africa. You know, supposed giant, let's leave our name. What are we getting? People are suffering out there. You know, people cannot afford even the bread. And that's why capacities is dropping. You understand? Where you are doing maybe 100 bags of flour a day before, you are getting about 30 bags now, 40 bags at the most. And what does that come with? It comes with loss in revenue. It is better that the prices are stable. You can do your plan and projections over a period than this galloping thing you are getting today is this. Like I just said, flour just increased by 41 in the last 1 month plus. Flour increased by 41.1%. Diesel increased by about 13%. What's it called? Softener increased by about 2%. And at the end of the day, you are looking at an increase of almost more than 100% on basic inputs that you are using to manufacture, that you are using to produce bread. Because I still keep saying it, all our inputs are majorly imported into the country. And this is having the FX volatility is having a huge impact on it. We are doing dollar at 610, 615, and land is 620 this morning. How will businesses survive? You know, until we begin to do these things in country and domicile them in country, I still keep saying it, we must begin to do the backward integration and ensure that this country is self-sufficient. Can you believe this? We have about 13 states producing wheat flour in Nigeria. In 2012, there was this levy that the federal government introduced there, I think in June. So they call it the Wheat Development Levy. What does it mean? 15% of it was supposed to be any importation. They use it to help the farmers get some improved seedlings, extension services, and then help the breakers. You know, it was supposed to be a stopgap for 2 years.
Did it work?
The federal government is now that 15%. They added it to the 15% that they were paying before to make 30% duty on wheat imports. In every other country, because of this Ukraine and Russian brouhaha, every other country, some countries in Africa, stockpiled wheat because they knew that this day was going to come where there was going to be a problem. But in our own case, it's not like that. The federal government should, as a matter of urgency, try and remove that 30% for now for the bakers so that they can have some cushion when they are importing this in and pass on that price reduction that they are getting from the importation levy towards the bakers. It will ameliorate some of the problem we are facing. It will help in trying to balance the industry. It will help us to remain in business. Because if the business keeps going down the way they are going, I am telling you, it's going to bode not good for Nigeria. One of the very big bakeries we have as member went down recently. And for me, it was it was a huge pain. This is somebody that is employing more than 300 Nigerians in Lagos here. And there was one I have in Oka, so that one is about 150. They just went down 2 weeks ago. And those people have left their jobs. So you want to sustain an economy, you want to make an economy as good as it is, and people are going out of job, going into the already saturated unemployment market. You know, the impact on insecurity will be very dire.
Far-reaching,
it's going to be dire. You understand?
I want to ask African Farmer, we had a situation where in Abuja we had a lot of rice, what they call rice pyramid. Is it what do you call it? A vanity display in the face of hunger? Because I know that we keep importing rice, and they keep coming to the country while we are making a display of indigenous rice and the price of rice has continued to go up. What is the relation? Is that not a reflection of a failure of policy and even of intention?
You know, the rice pyramid thing, I granted an interview somewhere, and I got calls from all over because I threw some darts into that event. The first thing I asked was that were they up to date with climate change? You know, because climate change it rains when it should not rain, and when it should not rain, and when it ought to rain, it stops. So if it rained that day, we would have lost 1 million bags of rice. They would have embarrassed Mr. President. That's one. Two is that if all the rice was to be taken back to various states, why don't you, store them in those warehouses there? Yes, we produce, our rice production has significantly improved, but as our rice seeds significantly improved. So if all of us, if the private sector, retirees want to be patriotic and say we want to grow rice, do we have the seeds to match up, with the realities? Another conversation around that is, you see, when we say Nigeria is the largest producer of rice in Africa or in sub-Saharan Africa, is actually deceit. Egypt is the largest, but Egypt took a strategic position because they needed more water and reduced their rice production. That's what made Nigeria number one. So when we begin to say we are number one, the day Egypt changes, if they've stored enough water and goes back, we'll be number two. So we should work with the realities. We don't have enough rice. We don't have enough seeds. A majority of all the things you will use to produce, like 95% is imported. We need to look inward. When we begin to look inward, then things will work. We need to engage local people to produce things. Government, you talk about wheat also. The CBN engaged farmers last year. Earlier this year, I brought the picture of the seeds that was imported, for trials. We've not heard anything about it. Yes, CBN is doing a lot more than before, but all these things we need, that word again, collaboration. If we don't collaborate, somebody will sit down in Abuja and just say, this is what they need. And they will spend a lot of money and now discover that, oh, this is not really what they need, or this is not how they need it. So the best consultants are messing up now. Get the practitioners that the shoe pinches together and let them bring a way forward. But what has been working across developing countries like Malaysia, India, that we've taught extensively, is that it must be inward. You must bring things out inward for the sector to thrive.
Right.
Oil palm is going down also because everything is external.
All right. Okay, but coming back to the studio, how much of a control does your association have about, concerns by people who can still afford to buy bread at its exorbitant rate, even though you've explained and balanced the adverse environment you all are working in? But then there's concern about the quality of bread in the market. Some would say go for the more popular brands as against the ones they call agege bread, because there's talk about cyanide, there's talk about some harsh chemicals that may not be fit for consumption.
As an association, we frown against the use of unwholesome materials because before you become a premium bread maker, there are irreducible minimum standards you must meet. First off, you must agree to our do's and don'ts, which is one, you must use wholesome material. You must have your HSSC plan in place. You must have a known address. You must have a 6-monthly food handlers test. Your equipment must be well calibrated so that it doesn't pollute the atmosphere. And these are things we do. We do in-house regulation among ourselves. We have a compliance and protocol team that goes from bakery to bakery all around Nigeria to ensure that these things are in place. And before you become our members, these are things we must do. And that presupposes a name premium, because you cannot give people garbage and call yourself a premium bread maker, because if we get you, we report you to NAFDAC. We subscribe to in-country regulation as enunciated by NAFDAC. You understand? So these are things we do as premium bread makers to ensure that Nigerians get the value for their money, that Nigerians are healthy in any bread that we churn out from our bakeries. You know, you can't go and be using unwholesome material and come and tell me that you are producing bread. Yes, times are hard. There is that tendency to want to cut corners, but we put our foot on the ground at all times, knowing fully well that this thing goes out to Nigerians, and if they ingest it and they begin to have all sorts of problems, it comes back to us. If we have, because we have our address on our labels, on our bread bags, they can easily trace you. Yes, we have a traceability matrix that we use to track what our members do. And you must have those things that must make you a standard bakery, that must make you operate within the extant rules of Nigeria, of this country, and globally for that matter. So for us, we are very, very mindful of what we do. And that's why you see sometimes people say the bread is expensive. No, it's not expensive. It's because of the inputs. Imagine you are using a softener. You are using ascorbic acid. You are using flour. You are using egg. You are using milk. You are using calcium propionate. You are using all the right inputs that will balance the vitamins that is required to ensure that whatever people are eating, whatever they are ingesting, you know, goes down well and gives them the right calorific values in their body and the right vitamins that will make them healthy. We are very mindful of that as premium.
So you're not just businessman, you're nutritionist.
Uncle Sam.
and still you say, that we may have to contend with this situation even further. Now we're in the second half of the year. No positives yet.
No positives. Horizon. I'm just telling you that as I speak with you, there is a lot of pressure. Bread prices will still go up. The one that is going for 1,000 naira is still being subsidized. Let me just tell you something. On that jumbo size, you have a loss. You are making a loss of about 81 naira 5 kobo. On the slice, you are making 48 naira 63 kobo. You are still subsidizing it. That is why when you produce, you buy 600 bags of flour, you cannot be able to recover the cost. So you have to get money from elsewhere to be able to remain in business.
Gone are the days in those days when I was in government college, really. We used to buy a loaf of bread for 5 naira, or 5 kobo. And we used to call it, you buy 5 kobo of bread and buy granite of 3 kobo. You call it 5.8. By the time I left Ughelli, it was 9.1. That was how it has jumped. And it was serious to call it 9 kobo for a loaf of bread.
And here we are.
And here we are talking of 1,000 naira.
And it's going to even increase more.
All right.
It's going to increase more. It's not making.
So these are realities that we are living with.
For us to remain in business, you must balance it. For us to remain in business, if you don't pass on the cost, because we are subsidizing as it were now. Okay. If you don't pass on the cost, then you are out of business. That's the truth.
All right. Thank you so much, President, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, Emmanuel Onuorah, for your very insightful contributions on the program.
Thank you very much.
Nutritionist. And of course, joining us via Zoom. Now, African farmer Mogaji, always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you very much.